Welcome to the Kennedy Events Podcast, where we feature top marketing, communications, and future of work leaders and share their biggest takeaways and insights. We love these conversations and hope you will too. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Kennedy Events Podcast, where we uncover the future of bringing people together through the eyes of industry leaders. Whether that's retaining top talent for your business, attracting your ideal partners, or retaining your best customers, learn from professionals who have been there and done it so you can too. Past guests have included Russell Benaroya of Stride, Kim Alpert of Udemy, Elise Napolitano of the Sprezzatura Entrepreneur, and Megan Flatt of Let's Collective. And today I am super excited to welcome Dan Clifford, an advisor to entrepreneurs who helps them build scalable, lasting companies. Prior to his advisory work, Dan co-founded and built AnswerLab, an Inc. 500 national professional services firm that serves the world's leading brands. The fast growth company was driven by a company culture that has been recognized in Fortune magazine 3 years in a row as one of the 25 best small company workplaces in the nation. Dan himself often works with services firms that are setting themselves up to scale. Today's event is brought to you by my company, Kennedy Events. We create stress-free conferences and events, providing expert management and design for all your corporate event needs, from in-person to hybrid and virtual. And you can learn more about us at kennedyevents.com. Dan, thanks for hanging out through that whole spiel. Thanks for being here.
Sure.
So
I always like learning more about Kennedy Events.
Well, and one of the joys of doing this podcast is I love learning about everybody else's businesses. You were telling me before we started recording that AnswerLab really focused on user experience research and what drives individuals' decisions. Tell me a little bit about how you even got started in that work. What made you want to do that?
Yeah. Well, I started out, my career started out in a mix of marketing and sales. So it kind of gravitated towards sales. And I was interested in technology. To me, it was the most exciting part of the world. Like just selling software was fun and exciting. Software is changing the world. And I learned some sales skills and eventually ended up at a company called Vividence, which had a software tool that helped companies understand users on their website, so it could do surveys and see where people clicked and understand more about what people were doing on a website. I met my business partner there. We worked together. I was more on the sales side. She was on the consulting side. After a few years there, we both decided to leave the company and start our own company. And we had kind of the mix of skills that we felt would work. And to me, I felt like what a great experience to just be paid to learn how to run a business. When you start off in a professional service firm, you can just go out and find a few clients to get started. So we just had our laptops and ourselves and talked to folks that we knew, and they hired us, and we did user experience research projects. So basically understanding how people interact with websites, mobile apps, tablet apps, to help them build better websites. So it started with us, and over time we hired people and grew and got office space and then opened other offices. So it was,
and now offices entirely are moving to a thing of the past. It used to be like a sign of success, and now it's like, who needs that?
It's exact. In fact, moving. We had a San Francisco office. We have one, and then opened a New York office, and it was much harder than we ever expected to get a new office up and running. It took years I feel like, to get it really nailed down and feel like it was efficient and that it made economic sense.
Yeah.
And what I've heard from other folks after I did that, I heard from some folks that a rule of thumb is it takes 5 years to get another U.S. office really up and running, and 10 years to get an international office up and running. So, and that's kind of more of a realistic view, like to feel fully comfortable that they're fully integrated and you've got the same culture and everyone's on the same team, and it's not just like a remote office from corporate, like you're really part of the team. So it's hard. It's hard opening and running an office. So this new virtual world, I can see, has lots of benefits.
That is fascinating. I wonder if people are able to iterate that much faster now, if it's like we're everywhere and nowhere, because we're able to come together right now over Zoom like this.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Yeah.
seeing even with large companies, Fortune 500 companies, a lot of companies are essentially saying there's no headquarters, like there's not even a head office. They're trying to distribute as much as possible and spread executives around and really just have this, single culture where you don't have to be close to the home office. It used to be you needed to be at the home office because you'd run into people in the hallways and like that's where the power was, and you wouldn't get promoted if you were in this little remote office. And companies are realizing the downside of that. They're doing what they can to try to, spread the power and the decision making and the ability to get ahead to folks that are all over the world.
Yeah, and the opportunity to build those relationships. Yeah, being a small company, there are whole layers in there that I don't think about, but that somebody has to within, like my clients' companies. Yeah, it is a fascinating problem. People are interesting to see the different approaches people are taking. With AnswerLab, you were ultimately, 50 employees, and then you, I think you said you loved working your way out of a job. Like that's what
Right.
success looked like. It doesn't need me any longer.
Right.
Yeah. So you
Yeah,
stepped
that was the
away.
challenge for me. Like I suppose every entrepreneur has the thing that drives them and what's the challenge that they love. And so someone might start an accounting firm because they love accounting. They want to do accounting for the rest of their life. For me, I saw the opportunity, and user experience research was something that I saw this great benefit to companies and even society making the digital world better. But I didn't necessarily want to spend all my days doing that. But I love the idea of building a company that could do it, and a culture and a set of systems and something that could live on without me. Like to me, that was the challenge. Can I build something that doesn't require me to have to be tinkering with it all the time, and or me controlling everything that happens at the company? And so did a lot of learning. I joined EO, the Entrepreneur Organization, which is how I know you, and I just learn more and more about how to set up systems for growth, starting with core values and getting into a number of other best practices that just help you be able to grow a business where it's not dependent on any one person.
Did it come to the point where you're running Answer Lab, but you've learned all of these business growth techniques and you're like, I want more opportunities to do those things?
I did that. That was the most motivating to me was um, it was the fun was the first time doing anything like building a new system and doing a new analysis and figuring out next step and like really coming up with those core values and this all these great tools and processes that we go through, and it really was motivating to me. And people would come to me and ask for advice kind of informally, and I'd help them out and just help people where I can, and I enjoyed it. So it really was something that I look forward to doing more of.
And that's when you stepped away. Did you know when you stepped away from Answer Lab and your partner took it over in full? Did you know that that's where you were going to go? Like you were going to be consulting?
I didn't know exactly. I knew I'd be doing something entrepreneurial, and I took some time to think about it and just just play with whatever basically came my way. But over time, I've just basically just thought about when I've had my best days, what are they? And usually, it's when I'm on the phone talking to folks or I'm meeting with people. A big part of what I do is hosting meetings, like offsites for companies that are making decisions or execs that have to get on the same page, or a founder and his team building, deciding on and establishing core values for the company, or training sessions of business owners. So I really love it. It's just fun, just being, facilitating a group where my style is I'll try, I'll share knowledge and train here and there, but really there's so much knowledge in the room that I try to tap into people that might be quieter or that just don't always speak up with a facilitated meeting. You can really, pull together ideas that often just don't come out from a regular office business meeting.
Where did those where'd you get those facilitation skills? Where'd you learn that technique?
Just boy, I don't know. Over time, I mean, I've always enjoyed just being with people. Like if I take a disc, if you've heard of the disc, or there's different personality assessments, and most of them say that I like being around people, and probably why I was attracted to sales in the first place. So that's one. My undergrad majors in college, I did a double major in psychology and organizational behavior and management. So I was attracted to those, but also learn those topics and continue to read all the time, new research and books that come out in those areas. Went to business school a few years after college and just loved that too. Just got some more business knowledge. Um, uh, Went to Kellogg, which is known for marketing and teamwork. Like their culture is all around
Yeah.
teamwork. So I guess I've surrounded myself with just this kind of knowledge and ideas, but really it comes from experience, like getting in front of a room and just having that right mix of facilitation and direction and being loose where you need to and tighter when you need to, and all. I feel like I get more comfortable and better with it the more I do it.
Yeah.
So you can't. There's always so much you can learn from a book. You got to get out there and do it.
You have it's reminding me that you have a phrase I love, that you take clients from like the 50,000-foot planning all the way down to the on the ground execution. What um we have, one of our core values is macro to micro. So that really relates. We look for people on our team who can pull up, see the big picture, understand how it all fits, and then also do that. I mean, in event planning, so much of what we do is the granular, the
Right.
details. But what are some of the things you notice either at the 50,000 or the 5-foot view?
Hmm.
Um, what do you see that your consulting clients maybe miss?
Hmm. Yeah, they might be missing things at sort of the high and the low end. So that on the high end, they might just have this general idea. I just want to grow, and that's it. They started that way, and they're not quite directed. And I think it's really valuable to have a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal, or something like that. If big and hairy and audacious is too much, even just a 5-year plan, like just picture in your mind what's a vision of where you'd want to be. Like what would it feel like to go to work? Roughly, how many people would you have on your team? Where would you be local? What kind of clients do you like working with? So it doesn't have to be exact, but just a vision, and then really nail down. Are you motivated by that? Do you like that? Is that exciting for you? And if so, well, let's make some steps to get there. And so let's say you're looking 5, 10 years out. Well, how what? That's a long time away. But what could we do this year? Like, what's something we could do this year to move a little bit closer to that end goal? All right, so let's establish that. We'll come up with some brainstorms. We'll narrow it down. We'll come up with one thing. And maybe it's hire a couple people that have a certain talent that you just don't have. Like this is one. Could be anything, but that's like a specific thing. All right, so this quarter, what would it take if you don't have any of those people, maybe not even any of that knowledge right now? What could you do this quarter to move forward on that? And
Mhm.
so we think, all right, well, maybe I need to talk to 5 people who know that industry, and I need to start information interviewing. Okay, well then let's start. Let's break that into the next few weeks. What will you do next week? So I won't go into all the details, but you can basically take something that's really motivating in the future and then narrow it down. Like I mentioned, we opened a New York office. That never would have happened if we didn't have a BHAG to be the most trusted brand in user experience research in the world. Like that was a BHAG. We believed in it. We loved it. We thought it was possible. We were heading that way. And a couple of years into the company, we kind of looked at the BHAG and said, if we want to be the best in the world, can we really just have one office? Like should we be in one place? And we all agreed, no, we need to be more, let's go at least national and then maybe international from there. And so that led us to a project to figure out where should the next office be. And then, we broke it down into pieces and eventually ended up with a New York office. But that literally would not have happened. Like if we're just putting one step in front of the other, we would have just kept growing, hiring people in San Francisco. It just wouldn't have occurred to us to make this jump, but it was the BHAG and the plan of how do you get there that led us down there.
Like working back from that bigger
Yeah.
picture goal. Yeah. Yeah. I recognize that. I feel like you, Dan, have inspired us to do exercises like that periodically in some of the
Hmm.
trainings we lead.
Yep.
So there's so many different ways that you can engage and consult with um, different businesses and with and with entrepreneurs in different cohorts. How when an individual business owner comes to you with like either a vague or specific problem, how do you as the outsider help them put their finger on like where they need to be putting their energy, let them unpack what the real problems are?
Right. Yeah. we just have a good open conversation with, no expectations on either side. Like I try, if I can, just add some value on a call and hopefully, uncover some things. And if they like what we talked about, we can start working together on more long term. But often people start with the tactical, the things that are keeping them up at night that are just most salient. And it might be, I've had a few key people quit, or my business has slowed down, my sales will slow down, or I'm meeting with customers, but they're not signing up. They're kind of just, tactical things. And so I'll often dig into that a little bit, like what's underlying that. So people leaving, do you know why? How do you run the company? What management structures do you have in place? And often what I see is there's just not much of an infrastructure. So, and it's very common. And that, I started my business this way. Most people start with just, you kind of wing it. You make decisions. You make every decision yourself. Usually you're the most talented in the company because you know it the best. Like, this industry or what you're doing, and you start to hire folks that are maybe more junior than you. And so you get used to just directing everybody in a one-off way as to what they should do next. But then quickly you realize you're overwhelmed, you're roadblock basically, or bottleneck. And what's needed is some infrastructure of systems, goals that people have, um, um, sort of a key performance indicator, so everybody in the company knows exactly what they're supposed to do, and then a set of core values that are agreed upon and really reinforced, that keep people together. So in some ways, you want everyone really independent, so they know what they're doing and they do it really well, and they're accountable to their own work. But then you need this cohesive culture that really pulls people together and has everyone going in the right direction.
Well, and I feel like that culture word is one of those, like, everybody thinks they need it. What is it? How do you know you've got it? Is it just the culture is synonymous with the style of the founder? Uh, like, what is his vibe or her vibe? How do you I mean, I feel like I know some of these answers because you've taken me through this exercise. We have values we're really proud of here, but it's probably a surprise to a lot of people how much nailing those down can move the needle.
Hmm.
What are some these I know you've got some good examples of, like, what the change looks like, what it does for an organization to be able to name those.
Yeah. Yeah. It can sound like this, the idea of core values, it can sound a little bit, I don't know, esoteric. And really, is that, I mean, that's really important. Isn't that just something you come up with these great words like honesty and integrity and you stick them on the wall? And like, isn't that just an exercise you go through just to look like you're doing what you're supposed to?
Right, yeah,
And,
or I think we would have confused it with, like, a customer brand promise, you
right,
know,
right, right. Yeah, that's true. It can be.
responsive and
Mhm.
diligent.
Right, right. And
Yeah,
after a while, it's like these are just words that everyone uses. And so, and I've seen that. So some people just feel like they've either been burned because they're at a company that's done that, and they kind of ignore them and they're just words and no one really follows up on them. Um, or they just feel like it's too esoteric. So just a phrase that I use that maybe brings it home a little is that it's just core values are, this is how we do things around here. And it's that simple. Like, it's that down to earth. Like, this is how we do things around here. And so there's a lot of, say, event companies out there, and some do things in one way and some do them in another. And no way is necessarily right or wrong. In most industries, there's different methods of running a company. Like Steve Jobs ruled, almost with an iron fist, right? He's famous
yeah,
for getting into and basically directing everything in the company. But he actually also he ran Pixar. He was the owner and CEO of Pixar, and he had a very loose culture with them. So it doesn't even necessarily have to be the like the culture isn't like the personality of the owner.
no.
It's really what bubbles up from the team. Like, what motivates them? What kinds of people do you want? Like, do you want them to be collaborative? Like, that's something that differentiates a company. And it doesn't have to be. There's lots of companies that are competitive. Like, there's companies that almost pit people against each other, and it still works for them. Like, I don't know if I'd personally want to work there, but lots of people do. Like, more competitive people who like that, like, you attract those people. So, like, that's what's kind of powerful about the core values. You set up a way of how you work together, and it helps you attract the kind of people that work well in your company, and it sort of subtly repels the people that aren't the right fit. Like they either get hired and they realize I don't quite fit in, I think I'm going to go find something else, or in the interview process they just kind of realize I'm not, this isn't for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know how powerful that's been for us. And it can also attract or repel clients too. Like we
Mm,
are going to
sure.
be in this engagement for a while. I want to, like and trust the folks I work with. And so if your values speak to me, we're that's going to really make or break the client relationship too.
Hmm. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
You talked a little about your business background and your education, and I love that it's striking the Kellogg marketing and business focus that comes back to me too. But in this present moment, who are some of your mentors?
Hmm. Someone who's been a great mentor over the years is actually like coming from business school. So in business school, but there's a strong pull to join a large company because all these large companies recruit there, like McKinsey Consulting and all the big consumer packaged goods companies and sort of the biggest brands. They all come and you can just sign up for an interview. So it's so easy. It's like this track that once you graduate, you just sign up for these interviews and you can go get a job. Um, Actually, I guess be more of I'd say a small fish in a big pond, but
Yeah.
learn some good things. And these are very, high quality companies. But somehow that just didn't appeal to me. Like most of my friends were looking for that and nervous about the interviews. I really, well, I read this book called "What Color Is Your Parachute," which is this
Oh
old. I mean,
gosh.
it was
Yeah.
written years ago, but it's been updated, and it was almost like the philosophy of it is at the time like eye opening to me. And the whole, like, to summarize in a sentence or two, they basically just say, instead of just looking at what jobs are out there and applying for them, like just put a lot of work into what motivates you. What do you like to do? Who do you like to be around? Where do you want to live? Like exactly where do you want to go? Like just be really specific and then go out and try to find that. And usually you find it by talking to people and information interviewing and looking around and just kind of networking. It's like it's more work, but it's kind
It
of
did
fun
look
work.
like McKinsey.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So I came across a company called Career Central, which I thought was kind of interesting. It was an early version of just connecting a new, unique way of connecting job seekers with jobs. And I
Mm.
thought that was, really interesting and motivating. It's like the job you have makes up a lot of your happiness. And if you can do better connections and find jobs, and that's great. Thought it was a unique, interesting idea. Turns out it was started by a Kellogg grad who had left a couple of years before me. I didn't realize it at the time, but I got in touch with them and started, emailing. And in the end, I ended up working there. And I had offers from like bigger companies with more money and all that. But I don't know, he was just motivating. I love the idea that he's entrepreneurial, great person, smart, hired good people. And it was a great move. I'm glad I did. I moved to the Bay Area, and that was my first job out of business school. And then over the years, when I started my company, I was in touch with him. I ended up hiring him to consult with us to help us build our company because he had built a few companies. His name's Jeff Hyman. I don't know if I mentioned his name. Um, and then, yeah, over the years, we've just kind of just kept in touch, and he's asked me for advice. I ask him for advice a lot more. It goes more in that direction. Um, but yeah, I think just having those people that you've built a relationship with and you trust each other, and then keeping in touch is, it's pretty important. I think I should do that even more. There's times that I've been stuck in situations, and boy, if only I had called a few people that were, that knew, could give me some guidance, I probably would have gotten through situations more quickly and easily and with less stress.
Do you have a memorable piece of advice he's shared with you, or a time when you went
Uh,
through something?
he was just very dry. Like when I was running my business, it was more around just I guess not having it be a long slog. Like I think he noticed that some of the things we were doing were just maybe as I'm mentioning, like just I don't know, just slightly putting one foot in front of the other, not building systems. So he um he was also good at going from that 50,000 foot view to the specific. So he helped me set up our CRM, which just let us be really clear about how we track our business and how do we want to track it, and just what even like down to what fields we put in the CRM so that we can track our pipeline so that we know how many people to hire. And it was just that idea of just being very directed about, well, just do this, and that'll just get you so far ahead of where you are right now. So I guess I took some of that to heart, and I try to do that with my clients too. So not just leave them hanging around, go find a system, but I'll do my best to try to say, well, all right, well, here's a system that I think will work for you, and let's start with that and try it, see if it gets you where you want it.
Start from somewhere. Start from something specific. I
Yeah,
love that. I also love that kind of ongoing relationship. And you said that about like, oh, if I just reached out to a few other people. We just had a team conversation yesterday where our big takeaway was when you find yourself in this situation, the first step is to tell somebody else. It's like,
yeah,
just name it to yourself, and then go tell one other person on the team. So you at least have shared it. And then if you need to workshop it, they're there to workshop it with you.
hmm
Yeah, just like have folks you're not afraid to check in with.
yeah. It's true. Especially like if you've screwed up, right? Or if I've screwed up, sometimes I feel like, oh, I don't want to talk. Like I'm embarrassed. What? How did I get myself in this mess? Or whatever it is. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's once
Yeah,
you tell one person, and people, they're fine. They're like, all right, great. Let's figure it out. Like most other people are a little more removed from it, and so a trusted, smart person will just put aside whatever happened in the past and say, all right, great. Let's just work. Let's figure this out. Let's
I
connect.
have that for like people that we do that I do that for, and then folks who do for me when you have to have a tough conversation. Like workshop this for me, and they can like give you a script with no no emotion
Mm,
because it's not their
mhm.
problem.
Yeah,
Uh,
right, right, yeah.
and you're like, that's brilliant. Oh my God, can you now say those words for me? No.
Right,
Uh,
right. Yeah,
but I can't come up with the words myself because I'm in the emotion of it. I'm in the
right.
stress of it.
That's true. I've done that for folks as well, where it's like, well, here's a less angry way to say what you're what you're trying to say, right? And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds better. All right,
Those are the words I was looking for. Yes. Do you have like daily rituals that are important to you or ways you like to structure your day?
yeah. I found I try to exercise every morning, so and it makes a difference. But like I've noticed, if I don't do it, I'm just less focused. If I like to swim. I found swimming is kind of the best exercise for me. So I'll swim with a master's swim group. So that forces me to show up and work hard and take less rest. Um, and I can focus all day. I can sit at a computer and like get a bunch of things done. And when I don't do that, I want to take a break and I'm sort of distracted and I'm trying to do other things. And it also helps me sleep better. I find if I'm not exercising, I'll sometimes just not fall asleep as well or wake up in the middle of the night. So somehow there's that connection for me at least. Um, I try to do my sort of more brainless work later in the day. So things that are more administrative and it just I don't know, tactical things that require a little less thought. I've learned to try to push those to the end of the day where I'm getting a little tired anyway. So it's less efficient to do it in the morning when I actually can be doing better thinking work.
Right. When that's where like your top thing needs its most attention. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's
Right.
great guidance. I envy you your good habit around daily working out.
Yeah. It
But
started with a book. I mean, there's books. I think there's one called Tiny Habits, and there's others about habits. And I didn't always do it, and it really started with. There was a time I wasn't exercising at all, and a book just had this idea of just do like two push-ups or something. There was a time that I was like, I don't feel like exercising. I'll do two push-ups.
Mhm.
And sometimes if you do two, you're like, all right, I can do five. And there's no commitment to do more than two, but like while you're doing it, you're like, all right, I can do more.
I'm
And
already here on the ground. I could do a
I'm
crunch.
already here, right? I'm already right here. I mean, what the heck? Um, and so that's sort of got like re-energized me, and
Mhm.
it gradually grew. So it wasn't like all at once. And then it was just noticing, like it was noticing, like I can easily not, it's in some ways easier to not exercise, but my mood isn't as good. I just don't, I'm not enjoying the day as much. So maybe I'm a little selfishly doing it so that I can be, feel good and try to be focused and, I don't know, I'm calmer. I can approach problems with less stress, things like that.
Yeah. Well, that's still super wise. All right. So we'll wrap up here with a final question. I'm curious, you mentioned your your mentor, or somebody you check in with? Who in this broad, wide world, Dan, are you grateful for?
Yeah. Well, it's I mean, there's so many people. The EO network has been amazing. Like just meeting you and a bunch of other folks. Uh, I can't list them all, but there's so many people that I just get these great concepts from that I'll meet and talk to and get a good takeaway, or they know somebody that I should talk to.
Yeah.
Um, just the idea of being part of a network where I can send a text and say, "I've got this issue," and you get 5 answers from folks saying, "Hey, here's an idea for you." It's been
I think it's like the
really
network and the
valuable.
community itself of other
Hmm.
like-minded entrepreneurs. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
huge. It's huge. Very cool. Well, I've been talking to Dan Clifford, a management advisor and guru of all amazing business practices. Dan, where can people learn more about you or find you in the wider world?
Yep. Email is dan@danclifford.com. Website is danclifford.com.
Amazing. Thank
Pretty
you so
easy.
much for your time today.
Right? Sure. Great talking with you.
Great talking with you.
Thanks for listening to the Kennedy Events Podcast. Come back next time and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.